Hello, welcome to our Bible studies. We're working through the Psalms. I'm sitting here, it's a chilly morning this morning, frost on the ground again, but very beautiful outside first thing. Yeah, so today we're back in Psalm 50. We're in Psalm 55, and a very interesting psalm, a slightly different angle. It's David who's writing, and he's already written a number of times about his enemies that camp around him, the people that are against him, and how he responds in that situation. And now, again, in this Psalm 55, he's still focused on people who are against him. But this time, when you look at the people who are against him, are people who had clearly walked closely with him. And as I was thinking about this, I realized there's a lot of parallels between what David is talking about here and what Jesus went through, where he was, betrayed by one of his own, he was abandoned by them all, and he faced that desolation of being left on his own. And through the cross, through the resurrection, he provided an answer, a way through. So, you know, looking at this psalm, I think on some level it probably contains something that will resonate with most people at some point. And it may not be as extreme as this, but um, it can feel extreme to you, and it can have significant impact in your life. So David, he's crying out for help. He's overwhelmed. Um, he talks initially about the fear that he faces when his enemies are against him. Like verse 4 in this version sort of talks about his heart pounding in his chest. And he's scared that he's going to die. He's expressing that desire to escape and to hide, and he's asking God to frustrate their plans. And so that's the first little bit. But then he gets on and he says this in verse 11: "It's not an enemy who taunts me, I could bear that. It's not my foe who so arrogantly insults me, I could have hidden from them. Instead it is you, my equal, my companion, my close friend. What good fellowship we once enjoyed as we walked together in the house of God." And so there he is, he's talking about someone that he was clearly close to, who he valued, someone who was a friend, someone he did life with. And it doesn't really say here what the root of what's happened is, but what we pick up is that, that his relationship with this person or people has significantly broken down. And yes, you read that, I'm sure, say, most people at some point have experienced some level of someone that you relied on, some friendship that's broken down, or maybe on an extreme level, divorce, betrayal, all sorts of things sadly happen to people in life. But it's looking here now at David, at how we should respond when we're faced with this sort of thing. And David gives us a good example, and the context is recognizing that Jesus, he died for us to give us a way through, that we may not be able to change the circumstance, but the important thing is to know that in Christ, in Jesus, there's a recovery process that we can enter into, that we can set our hearts on. And so, when I look at David like this, in this case, when he's saying, they were my companion, they were my close friend, we had great fellowship, we worshipped together in the house of God. And he then in verse 16 comes to the key thing, which comes through again and again, and I just think we have to get hold of and keep hold of in our lives. He says, "But I will call on God, and the Lord will rescue me. Morning, noon, and night I cry out in my strength, and the Lord hears my voice." And yeah, when I read that and try and get hold of it, I realise that one of the ways we can tell whether we're genuinely doing that is how on the other level we're trying to solve the situation. We're trying to, justify the situation. We're trying to, in our own hearts and maybe to other people, trying to put ourselves in a good light, shift the blame. It's like the cause of this problem isn't me. It the cause of the problem is something to do with the other person, their heart, their attitude. But maybe the cause is they've actually responded to me. Now, it's a very, very natural thing to go down that route because it's a way of dealing with some of the pain, to be able to justify why we're right and they're wrong, justify why we've held the good ground they haven't. But what does David do? David says, I will call on the Lord. It's the Lord who brings me out of it. I'll cry out. He's the one that answers. And I think that is a real test in our own hearts, is in any situation. This is talking relational thing that maybe we can't resolve, that our heart is towards God and that our expectation is he will give us the path through. Now, I'm not saying he will resolve the situation. That may not be the case, but he will be the one that gives us the way, gives us the path, gives us that route through. And we demonstrate our heart by the fact that we do cry out to him, we do look to him, we do have an expectation that God will move on our behalf. And there's things we might have to do in the practical way, but it's how we do them. Are we doing them with a clear and pure heart, or are we fighting back in a natural sense? And he carries on, David, he says, he ransoms me and keeps me safe. God is the one that keeps you safe. He is the one that we have to look to. And he goes on, he talks about the betrayal, the broken promises, speaking one thing, but something else going on underneath. And verse 22, having explained the situation again, David just says, give your burdens to the Lord, and he will take care of you. He will not permit the godly to slip and fall. And I think when we're challenged, when we're under pressure, when things are going wrong, when maybe people that were for us don't appear to be for us, and all those things happen, the question is, how are we going to respond? Are we going to, with humility, humble ourselves under the mighty hand of God, or are we going to stand up and fight and rah and go after something? And David has found that place, going, I may have lost something, but I'll trust in God. There may be a resolution to happen, but I'll lean on him. And for us, I want to encourage us, if we're facing or faced recently or in a way that's unresolved, people or situations where we feel betrayed, we feel all those senses of being left out, left behind, can we trust God as our source of resolve? Or actually, are we going to, in our own strength, try and bring resolve in not just a forgiveness way? When I talk about that, I mean resolve in I'll fight back way. There's always a route to try, resolve in a forgiveness, open-hearted way. I put a proviso in that. Sometimes, relationships as such, that's not a wise thing to do. But encourage you at the end here, keep an open heart, seek God, trust him as your source of support and care and protection. Bless you. Have a lovely day. Go and enjoy the sun if the sun is shining in your area. Bye for now.